Hey everybody, this is Kurt Schlichter and I am back again for another edition of Take That with Kurt Schlichter here on The Rebel Media, your source for conservative stuff. Okay, what a freaking amazing week it was. Finally, after 70 years, the United States of America has kept its promise and recognize Israel's capital as Israel's capital. I'm talking about Jerusalem. I'm talking about a promise that's been made by our Congress, by president after president after president, and none of them kept it. To move our embassy to Jerusalem, to tell the Jewish people, yes, we recognize that this is your homeland, that you have a right to exist, that you have a right to be there, and the full weight, credit, and power of the United States of America is going to back you. What a huge celebration for freedom, what a huge celebration for Western civilization. But it's got even more implications than just that, if that's not enormous enough. The theme of President Trump, or rather the theme of the people who elected President Trump, because here on Take That with Kurt Schlichter, we understand that this revolution is not about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is merely the avatar of this revolution. He is the face of it. The revolution is people, American people, demanding that our politicians take seriously what we demand, what we've asked for, what they've promised, and they promise it again and again, and they don't do it. And moving the embassy to Jerusalem has been a promise that president after president, Republican and Democrat, have made, and promptly gone to office and ignored. And it's, one of those promises that the establishment said, oh yeah, we'll go out and tell the rubes out there that we're gonna stand by our ally, we're gonna stand by our friend. But when we get in office, we're gonna listen to the transnational liberal elite, the Europeans with their unfiltered cigarettes and poor personal hygiene, and we are going to continue to string along our friends in Israel. Donald Trump is a reaction to that, because we've seen that not just involving Israel, but involving all manners of politics. The Republican Party will go out and it will make promise and promise and promise of conservative change, and then we'll get into office and it will not do any of those things. And it will take over, the mind, the body, the soul, as it were, of good conservatives and turn them into lunatics. Example, Jeff Flake. Jeff Flake used to be a great conservative. He believed in all this stuff. Then he went to Washington, started getting written up in the Washington Post, and holy cow, he's a damn commie. I mean, assault weapons ban, amnesty, all that. Donald Trump's a reaction to that. The American people were sick of it. That's why you put Donald Trump in, because we believed he would keep his word, and he has. And he said, look, I'm going to move the embassy to Israel. And he gets into office, and all the best people who went to Georgetown and have a degree in foreign service, and I've traveled many times to Belgium, they all told Donald Trump, no, you can't possibly do that. That was, it's just a campaign problem. We can't do that. Arabs would be upset. Palestinians would be upset. And Donald Trump was like, no, I promised we'd do it, so we're going to do it. Let's do it. And he did. He did. Oh, and the media freaked out, the establishment freaked out, the Democrats freaked out. Did you know there was apparently not one elected Democrat at the ceremony in Jerusalem? Not one. Now remember, this has been part of their platform too, but not one of them would actually go there to celebrate the friendship of the United States and Israel. The Democrat Party has become an anti-Israeli party. Just ask them. Just watch their actions. But it's the Republican Party that was really disappointing. Not now, because Donald Trump came through, but before. George Bush could have done this, but nah, too hard. Nah. All the smart people said no, don't do it. Don't possibly do it. It's a terrible idea. Terrible idea to show loyalty. Terrible idea to be honest. Terrible idea to stand by your friends. There's a problem if loyalty and honesty are considered weaknesses. And that's what the establishment Republicans did. They considered them weaknesses and they just didn't do them. And boy, We got some really torn never-Trumpers, Jennifer Rubin and all the rest of them. They're like, this is a terrible idea, but I loved the idea before, but I hate it now because Trump did it, but it's a terrible idea now. And they're just going crazy, and you know, the cruise ship is off course. It's going to hit the iceberg, and the whole conservative cruise is going to sink, and it's going to be awesome. So there was a reaction. There was a reaction over there, and it was pretty brutal, you know. The Palestinians, led by Hamas, organized by Hamas, armed by Hamas, decided they would stage quote-unquote protests. And those protests consisted of trying to invade Israel. Okay, this is a poor idea. When you invade Israel, yelling, we're going to kill all the Jews, and carrying knives and Molotov cocktails and such, you're going to get shot. And a bunch of them did get shot. In fact, you know, a lot of them got shot. And I don't care, and most Americans don't care, and certainly President Trump doesn't care. Now, you can imagine Jeb Bush. Now, first of all, Jeb, and I want you to, you know, imply the exclamation point in Jeb. Jeb never would have honored his promise to move the embassy to Jerusalem in the first place, because all the best people would have told him no, and it would have been an act of love or something, you know, whatever. Jeb's terrible. But can you imagine what would happen if Jeb was in office when the Israelis acted with legitimate self-defense and killed a bunch of terrorists trying to murder the Jewish people? He would have freaked out and condemned it. And the Trump administration was kind of like, meh, don't want none, don't start none. Don't care. Don't care. Good. Because we shouldn't care. In fact, we should support it. We should support Israel 100% for using violence, legitimate violence, in legitimate self-defense against people who want to kill them. The real animals are these Hamas cowards. Now, the leadership of Hamas is way in the back. They're not going to get shot. They might get rocketed by the Israelis, which is awesome, but they're not going to get shot. They're going to send stupid people out and pay them to essentially get killed. They're going to manufacture incidents for the media. My favorite was like this, the news people were like filming all these, dead bodies, and all of a sudden the dead bodies start moving and like, picking their noses and stuff because it's real uncomfortable under the cloths. That's my favorite. They're not even good at gaslighting. The Europeans freaked out, of course. This is terrible. This is a crime. The crime is paying stupid people to go do stupid things for your personal advantage. That is the crime. The crime is not defending your people. The crime is not defending your women and children. We know what happens when the Palestinians get hold of Israeli citizens. They butcher them. And they've done it again and again. The Europeans don't care. Remember, the Europeans are not only anti-Israeli, they are anti-Jewish. Make no mistake. They are eager to finish the job their fellow socialist Adolf Hitler started. Now, how do I know that? Now, they'll never say that out loud. But how do I know that? Why do I think that? Because I watch their actions. At every turn, they support the people who want to kill all the Jewish people. And how do I know they want to kill all the Jewish people? You listen to what they say. Oh yeah, we want to drive them in the sea. We want to make Palestine Jew-free. That's never going to happen. The Israelis aren't going to let it happen. We Americans aren't going to let it happen. Donald Trump is not going to let it happen. If Hillary Clinton was there, she might let it happen. Yeah. Do you see Hillary Clinton backing Israel the way Donald Trump does? Do you see Hillary Clinton risking anything, especially a fracture within her own coalition, which has a huge, huge number of people who hate Israelis, who frankly hate Jews? I mean, these guys were meeting with Louis Farrakhan, and they think that's okay. Do you see them standing up for Israel when Israel's in danger? Donald Trump will. The people who support Donald Trump will. We will stand by our allies. We will stand by our friends, whether it's Israel or Poland or Great Britain or Australia or Japan. We will stand by our allies. South Korea. We will stand by our allies because we gave our word. Promises made, promises kept. That's the theme for Donald Trump's campaign. That's why Donald Trump got elected. This week he kept his promise. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and he supported Israel's legitimate self-defense. And I couldn't be prouder. This is Take That with Kurt Schlichter. everybody. I'm here with Matthew Betley, author of Take It Away.
Well, the new book, Field of Valor, comes out next week, but I'm also the author of what we call the Logan West series, which is a series of intense, emotional, action-packed roller coaster rides from Simon & Schuster.
So there's a lot of feelings as your hero is killing bad people.
Yeah.
Is there hugging? Is there hugging, Matt?
Actually, there is hugging, especially in Oath of Honor. Ask your better half. Trust me.
Now you want to sell books, right? You know my audience.
Yes, I do. But
most of my people have a solid anti-hugging agenda.
Well, that's okay. You know, you got to be secure in your manhood and in your masculinity, which will probably now get me all sorts of hate mail since I used masculinity.
Now you write thrillers. You're doing the Vince Flynn, Brad Thor, Tom Clancy kind of thing. Who were you inspired by? Who are the guys who started you off down that road?
So as a kid, I actually read Tom Clancy, and then I also read a series about a guy named Mac Bolan. It was Don Pendleton.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh! What was he like? The Exterminator or something like that?
Executioner.
The Executioner. It was in every airport and drugstore in 1977.
Yes, they were serial novels, so they were about 227 pages, I believe, every month. And I read these like as a teenager, which is probably why I'm the warped and twisted individual that I am today.
And basically, Mac Bolan would go out and like kill mafia guys and get girls.
Yes, this was before the dawn of modern-day terrorism as we know it today.
So this was basically just straight up thugs.
Yes. You know, there'd always be a woman. It was it was like knockoff monthly James Bond thrillers, but they were fantastic. A total side note is that they had signed Bradley Cooper to play Mac Bolan several years ago, and I read an article about that a couple of years ago, but I have no idea. You know how Hollywood is. It takes years to develop a final product.
Well, you've got a Hollywood thing going.
I do. I'm very fortunate that in addition to the books, we signed we reached an agreement with Thunder Road Pictures, the same company that does the John Wick series, Sicario. They named Braden Aftergood, who did Hell or High Water, Wind River, Lone Survivor, to name a few of his movies.
I've seen some of those movies.
I know. I think a few people have. He's actually producing the movies, and the intent is to make a worldwide action franchise based on the books, and they're starting with the first one. They've already done what they call a treatment on the first book, Overwatch, and we're pushing forward.
Now, look, you're out here in a space where there's a lot of conservatives, and I know you're a is it ex or former Marine? I forget.
Former Marine. You're always a former Marine.
Yeah. You Marines. Jesus H.
Yeah,
you've got all these little things that you guys have as Marines.
I know. In fact, there's a lot of nuances that we're very particular. We're very high maintenance.
I know, and we're just like slobs in the Army. We're just like, there's just going to be 20,000 of us, and we're just going to show up and win.
Well, hey,
and then there's like 80 you guys, and you show up and win and look good.
Well, that's true, and that's half the battle.
Well, look, there's something to be said for mass. Mass has a finesse all its own.
What? Well, that's true. Overwhelming firepower is always a good thing.
Nothing wrong with that. Let me ask you a couple things. As a writer, and I know personally you're kind of a conservative guy. You're a military guy. Military guys are generally kind of conservative by temperament, but I don't see you as a huge ideologue like, well, I don't know, me. How do you let politics get into your books?
Okay, so I try and actually find a balance in the stories because, first and foremost, I'm a thriller writer. My primary job is to entertain. I don't care about your political background when you're reading my story. I would love the idea of some, very far left person to pick up my book and have a wildly entertaining time. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it would be great. It would be great if it
maybe
did.
The hugging we talked about will swing them. Maybe they'll dig that.
Yeah. So politics, like for example, my fictional president is a blue dog Democrat, and people should know what that term means. And
not anymore. That's like buggy whip.
Yeah, that's true. And nowadays that'd be considered like an alt-right hardcore conservative.
I know. Fascist!
Yeah, exactly. But no, I try and keep the politics in the books because I write intense action thrillers, and I'm technically in the same category as Vince Flynn and Brad Thor. I actually have the exact same editor, publisher, publicist as those guys. Um, but you know, I'm focusing on entertaining, so the politics plays a role, especially when there's some of those White House discussions. But it's not a primary focus for me.
Okay, so
I'm more politically active, as you know, on Twitter when I get, especially when I get my britches up.
so your goal is to make that an entertaining flight between Kansas City and Orlando.
Absolutely. You know, the best feedback that I get is when people tell me, Matt, I picked up one of your books, and next thing you know, it was like 10 hours later, and I hadn't slept, and I was supposed to be at work. And I get those emails all the time. And it's the biggest form of flattery that you can get is somebody lost sleep over my book.
You know, the biggest form of flattery for my novels, which are intensely political, is pretty much,
I'm shocked.
Why did you have to make Virginia part of the blue states?
No.
I want it to be one of us.
Well, you know,
that would never happen.
Everyone has hopes and dreams.
Oh, jeez. But look, there's something else about you that kind of distinguishes you from other thriller writers, and that's the alcohol angle. And you're very open about it. You, like a lot of us in the military, were a pretty hard-charging partier.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm fortunate that at 46, I'm now 9+ years sober. But I lived life like a wild man for, you know, from 18 on. I always did really well in school. I'm an intense guy. I have an intense personality. I used to joke that moderation was a word I couldn't spell.
You're a Marine.
It's true, exactly. I can count to 20 if I have my shoes off. But, you know, I used to say that, you know, for me, it was a weekend thing. I was like a wild, out of control weekend guy. I managed to stay sober, and that's how I really look back on it. I stayed sober during the week, but for 20 years, I was a lunatic every weekend. We always used to say that, okay, if we're going to go out drinking, somebody's going to go to jail, something's going to be on fire, and somebody's going to be in the hospital, or all three. But I was fortunate that finally I managed to get my head on straight 9+ years ago. I actually did it through the Marine Corps, through an outpatient rehab program at Andrews Air Force Base that, unless you have my problem and you're in the military, you're probably not familiar with it.
I actually, you know, of course, I was military for a long time, and that's a real issue in the military. First of all, you got a lot of hard-charging, intense guys.
Exactly.
Guys who are always up for a challenge. And you and I both know, if somebody's saying, I'm having a beer, you know, there's a lot of temptation to go, oh yeah, you're having a beer? I'm having two, and I'm going to pound them faster. Oh yeah? Oh yeah?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's just, especially in the Marine Corps, it was the ultimate work hard, play hard environment. And for people like me with my issue, that probably wasn't the best place, but I still did well. But, you know, I often joke that I've been out of the Marine Corps now since 2009. I'm probably a better officer now than when I was in, just because, you know, I'm sober.
Well, look, I mean, you know, both you and I have gone to PT formations, inhaled, you know, at 6 in the morning and said, holy cow, I'm working out in a distillery.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a reality of life. And I think the drinking in our military has receded over time. I think it was heavier when I started. I'm a little older than you. 1987 is when I went into basic training. And then I got out in 2015 out of the reserves. And I think, you know, over that time, there was a definite change. I think even before I got in, though, even after I got in, the O Club was not the center of social life on the bases I was at when I was active duty. But if you had gone 10 years before, I mean, that got wild.
Oh, absolutely. My first duty station was Camp Lejeune, and I remember that, you know, the O Club there, you know, it was socially active. I actually lived at the Bachelor Officer Quarters my first couple of years down there, which was right near the O Club, so I could stumble back
Easy
to
stumbling
my room.
distance.
Exactly. But the thing is, I remember this was during Commandant Krulak's tenure, and I remember that the pendulum had swung a little bit towards a zero tolerance policy towards wild, out of control, drunken behavior. Although it still goes on, obviously.
How's this affect? Yeah, not as much. I think it has, at least when I was in 3 years ago, it had definitely changed. You'd have alcohol incidents that I'd have to deal with as a a battalion commander, deputy brigade commander, but not as many as before. I remember one time in Germany, I got woke up at, midnight. And of course, I was half in the bag. But my troops had come back to the billets, gotten in a fight over a stuffed Alf doll.
That's excellent. I mean,
it's great. The story's a lot longer and more in depth. Yeah. I'll tell it to you something over iced tea in the future. How does this work in your novels, though? I mean, how do you take this life experience, which is obviously very important to you, and you're very open about it. I'm not revealing secrets. But how do you integrate it into your novels?
Well, when I started writing, I took the adage of write what you know to heart. So I literally split my personality in half, and I made my protagonist Logan West, like the intense, angry, violent side of me. When you meet him on page 1, he is emerging from a blackout relapse to confront a mercenary sent by a Mexican cartel to retrieve something in his home in Annapolis. That's like page 1 of my first novel.
So you're not spending a lot of time setting up the feels.
Yeah, well, no. That takes. I do that all through internal dialogue, and actually, it even takes place throughout the action sequences. But then the other side of me is the John Quick side. He's kind of Logan's sidekick, his former platoon sergeant from Force Reconnaissance Company, and he's the guy that you know and talk to, which is the self-deprecating, sarcastic guy that I am on a day-to-day basis. It was for me. It was very easy to write those two characters, and it's like I'm having a conversation in my head, and I'm just putting it on paper. And at least I'm not having that conversation out loud, or people might get concerned.
Okay, and in the new one, how have you developed the characters? You've had, 4 books? Say the names of the books, because you got to say the names of your books 7 times, according to you.
That's true.
7 times.
So the first
keep saying them.
So the first one was Overwatch. That came out in 2016.
Right.
That was my debut novel, and that was actually named a top 10 book of the year by the Military Times, and it was also nominated for a Barry Award for Best Overall Thriller.
Nice.
The second book, Oath of Honor, came out in 2017. And that I picked up 2 years after the events of Overwatch. And I introduced 2 new characters that people absolutely are head over heels for. And then the third book, Field of Valor, picks up 6 months after the events of Oath of Honor. And that's the one that comes out in hardcover on 22 May.
Interesting.
Yes. And then I'm working right now on the 4th book for 2019. And then I also have books 5 and 6 already planned in my head as well.
Well, that sounds awesome. Okay, Matt, well, I appreciate you coming on here and talking about this stuff, but I now have to ask you the most important question. What's the most conservative animal, dog or cat?
Oh, dog, hands down.
Say.
Yeah, I'm a dog guy.
Okay, good. Good, because I'm going to discuss that a little later in the podcast. I think I'm going to get a lot of grief, but I don't care. I'm going to fight the power.
I know. Unfortunately, I think there's but the big question is, are there more cat or dog videos on the internet? I don't know.
Well, I think it's a conservative medium. I think it's puppies. So anyway, thanks a lot, Matt. Everybody, go out and get Field of Valor.
Oh yeah, and please follow me on Twitter. I also have a Facebook page. Yeah, Matthew Betley. It's pretty easy. And then there's a Facebook fan page, and again, the paperback of Oath of Honor just came out a few weeks ago, and again, the hardcover comes out just before Memorial Day.
Go buy it all.
Exactly.
Go buy it all. Just go out and
buy everything.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
well, thanks
brother.
a lot, man.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, that was my chat with my pal Matthew Betley. I'm back. I've got my my microphone again. We are ready to do important things. Talk about the most important issue of the day. Now, we've already talked about how it's important to keep promises. We've already talked with Matthew Betley. Let's focus on something that transcends all those. Which is the most conservative animal? Is it the cat or the dog? Well, let me rephrase that. Is it the lowly, sinister feline or the loyal, proud dog? Gee, I think I vote dog. Look, let's get real about this, because there's a lot of fighting on Twitter about this. What is the most conservative animal? And it's very, very clear that the most conservative animal is the loyal canine. Dogs are cool. I have a dog. I have a legendary dog. My legendary dog's name is Bitey. Hopefully there's a picture of it that will magically appear while we're here. What a noble beast Bitey is. Bitey earns its keep. Now, I refer to Bitey as it because I don't want to misgender Bitey, because it's important that I don't, impose my view of what Bitey's gender is on Bitey, because that's a thing of some sort among dogs and social justice warriors. But anyway, Bitey is a noble creature. Bitey provides value. Besides being beautiful and fun to pet, because Bitey, while I'm writing, Bitey will come up against me and sit there, and it is relaxing to stroke Bitey and pet Bitey. Not so relaxing when Bitey decides to chew on me, but Bitey understands that teeth are important. Bitey understands that violence, properly used, is an important tool for doing justice. That's why dogs have teeth. Now about cats. You ever see a cat attack anybody? Well, I mean, they kind of scratch at them, but really, they're kind of cats are kind of pacifists. Cats are kind of liberal. They're the dog's going out with the tooth equivalent of an AR-15. Cat's going around with the equivalent of a whistle. Remember how social justice warriors and anti-gun people think that the way to protect yourself from attackers is to have a whistle instead of a .357 Magnum. Those are cat people. That is a cat thing. Cats are also sly and cunning and deceitful. They're pretty much Chuck Schumer with fur, which is an image that, gosh, I just hope I can somehow banish from my thoughts. But they're like the mean girls of animals. They're conniving. They're sneaky. The dog has no guile. Dog just comes up to you, and you pet the dog, and you like the dog. The dog is what the dog says. Dog, promises made, promises kept. That's a dog. Cat will lie to your face. Cats are lawyers. Cat's a lawyer doing workers' comp cases from a van down by the river. That's what a cat is. Sneaky, conniving. Have you ever seen a cat add value to anything? Oh, well, it catches mice. That's a myth, okay? Cats don't catch mice as a habit. That is a rare occurrence. But Bitey barks at everything. Bitey is a walking security system. Besides having sharp little fangs, anytime a threat approaches our house, Bitey goes crazy. You got Bitey, small children, squirrels, other tiny dogs. Bitey is there to defend. Bitey is adding value. Bitey is a security system, a weapon ready to fight to defend Bitey's family. Cat's like, I'm out of here. I'm done. Cat is gonna do nothing for you. A cat is a parasite. Cat adds no value. It's like a Democrat voter. Cat is a welfare cheat. Okay? Cat is they're just awful creatures. Now look, admittedly, they are soft and occasionally cuddly. All right, but occasionally a liberal is too. I mean, mostly in a comedy kind of way. I mean, like you want to laugh at them, but a dog though. Dogs are noble beasts. Cats are just a mess. Why would you want a cat? If you are conservative, you need a dog. You need two. Dogs are like the AR-15s of animals. And cats are like the, whistles. They're almost useless. Now, this is just my view. I don't know what you think, but I'd like to know what you think. I'd like some feedback. You can comment here on The Rebel and tell me why you think cats are conservative, and I'll laugh at you because you're wrong. Or you can talk to me on Twitter, @Kurt Schlichter, KURTSCHLICHTER. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. And you look for the hashtag caring, and you can come on there and you can go, what the hell was that? Why would you think that cats are not conservative? Let me list the reasons why, and then you run out of characters, and it's fine. or you do like a 50, a 50 tweet thread on why cats are better than dogs and more conservative. I don't care. Look, I'm all about free speech, so I'd like to hear from you. In any case, that's my take that for this week. We've covered important subjects like promises made, promises kept, stand by your allies, and works of Matthew Betley, and the most important issue, why dogs are more conservative than cats. So anyway, come along and join me next week here on Take That, and we will do this all again. Thank you very much.